Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new episode of Three Drams. As always, I'm your host, Matt Healy, also known as Pot Still Matt, and I am delighted to be welcoming you all here to episode 36. We are trucking along in the world of Three Drams. I am super excited because tonight we have some really fascinating whiskies on the board for you this evening. Of course, I'm already seeing in the comment section loads of people that I am very familiar with, and I do want to say a very big hello to. But one thing I do want to address straight away is I do not have my lovely barrel stave wall backdrop. And that is because, well, one, that's gone. Unfortunately, I'm moving house. I just bought a house and I couldn't take the stave wall with me. So that has been disassembled and is now gone. And I am now in a lovely, very dark bedroom where I grew up when I was a child. So you can all muse and enjoy the background of my curtains in the corner. But as always, I am delighted to have you all here. This is episode 36 of Three Drams. And we are going to have three fantastic whiskies this evening. As always, I am just the pretty face that shows up to talk to you about some of the finest whiskies of the land dropped directly to your door. It is the people at Three Drams and Irish Malt who do all of the work in the background to not only work with every brand, because the next about 5 months of brands are already set up through January and February. A lot of work goes on in the background. Then getting whiskey, decanting the packs, and sending them all over the world. As always, I say to you guys, we have people that watch live, and then a lot of people that watch back after the fact as well. I do always say a very big shout out to our friends. We have people in Brazil, Western Canada, Japan, and Australia who watch at different times throughout the next day or so, just because of the time zones. We have some international rugby players that watch on a monthly basis that I'm not allowed to name the name of. We also have some astronauts that work and that watch along as well. And I'm not allowed to say who they are either. Damn GDPR. But no, look, we have a lot of people that enjoy getting three whiskeys delivered to their house every month. This is the box that comes to you. Three Drams, it's a fantastic kit. It comes in its own little personalized box. With it, of course, you have your little tasting card and then your three bottles that arrive just like this. As always, we have three whiskeys. This evening, we are tasting a Taiwanese whiskey, an Irish whiskey, and then an Irish whiskey that has Japanese influence. So we've gone very international for this evening. I'm really excited about it because there's a lot to talk about and unpack with these whiskeys as well. To everyone in the comments section, hello, good evening. To Alan from Galway, Marissa always back in from Maynooth, a very big hello. To our friends in Shneem, the Walking Club in Shneem that are always tuning in. I am delighted to see you here. This is John McCarthy. Yes, exactly. Episode 36. This is 3 years of Three Drams. Started as a lovely COVID-inspired video series of tastings to bring it into your room, and you're all still here. So a very big thank you to you guys. Gordon, a very big hello from Glanmire. Of course, the guys set up Irish Malts are also from Glanmire. So I'm sure they're delighted to see you there. Mike, always great to have you back. Martin in Limerick, a very big hello to you as well. So guys, as I said, this evening we have three very interesting whiskeys, very special whiskeys. If you are tasting along at home, make sure to crack them open with us. We are going to start with Dram number one. Here, this is a Kavalan Classic Single Malt. Now, I'm going to pull this up for you. This is what we're going to be tasting with Dram number one this evening. This whiskey is something I am very excited to try. Kavalan, if Kavalan and King Carter Distillery are not names that are in your whiskey lexicon, they're going to need to be after this evening. One of the most famous distilleries and brands in the world. It is phenomenal whiskey from Taiwan. Unfortunately, there is a brand ambassador that was meant to join us this evening, but has become otherwise occupied in Paris, of all places. So they unfortunately can't join us. So you've just got me. But I am going to wax lyrical about a brand I absolutely love. I have worked in whiskey the last 10 years, and I've worked about 8 or 10 festivals around the world beside the brand ambassadors for Kavalan. So I have a very big love and I have a small knowledge of the brand. But we're going to taste along with us. So as I said, we have Dram number one here. As you see, mine is half empty or half full, depending on your disposition. And again, of course, being not in my own home, I do not have two glasses with me at the moment. So I'm going to be enjoying from brandy snifters because That's all my parents had. So we're gonna deal with it when needs must. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to invite you all to do the same. If you have the glass in front of you with these whiskeys, or you're watching along at home after the fact, enjoy, I'm going to take the first little nose, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So I'm going to say Sláinte. Kavalan is a really, really complex and very, very fruity whiskey. So if anyone who's been tasting alone at home, let us know in the comments section what you're tasting, because I'm going to talk about this a little bit before we come back and talk about the tasting notes of this whiskey. If you don't know Kavalan, this is a whiskey distillery and a whiskey to get excited about. I know I talk a lot about Irish whiskey, but I love different whiskeys around the world. It's the first and currently the only, as the first distillery established in Taiwan. I think they established after they joined either OPEC or World Trade Organization or something like that. The doors open for trade with Taiwan, and essentially the King Car Distillery was built in 2005. They're still the only family-owned distillery or kind of corporation or family-owned distillery on the island. One of the fascinating things was it was built in 9 months after conception. And I don't know if that's just Taiwanese construction prowess, because I've never heard of anything in Ireland, let alone the drafts being done in 9 months where the whole distillery was done. It was essentially set up in 2005, and they employed Dr. Jim Swan. If anyone does or doesn't know, is very famous, a member of the international whiskey community that had a huge impact in numerous distilleries across the world, and was the architect behind STR's shaved, toasted, and recharred barrels. So he worked with King Car Distillery, as it's known, which is also Kavalan Distillery, for about 10 years, establishing their kind of flavor profile. They distill in pot stills, so it's not like in the United States or anything where you're kind of mixing columns and pot stills. All malted barley, as I said, established in 2005. And in 2008, this was the Kavalan Classic Single Malt. And I'm going to pull it back up again. You'll see a very unique style of bottles, and also their kind of three-stepped name, just to give I suppose, some phonetic difference to the brand as well. Hang on, yeah, I've done that to myself. Now, anyway, the whiskey was brought out in 2005 and has been going since. This is a combination. It's actually kind of harder to find information about the classic in terms of cask regiments. As far as the information I have this is a combination of ex-bourbon and ex-sherry casks that are all refills. And Jim Swan was very big on Kavalan using refills of pretty much anything they laid down, whether it be sherry, bourbon, rums, whatever. Because of the climate of Taiwan, they wanted to give something that will bring through and not bring through a lot of flavor, but not overpower the spirit due to the kind of heavy wood element. So this is where you're going to get a lot of the flavors. There are a few places that say this also includes Virgin American oak. I can't confirm nor deny that, but hopefully maybe someone in the comment section will know better than I. But the main thing about Kavalan, their actual spirit, and if anyone doesn't know, distilleries, the way their stills are built and the way that the distillation is run, they actually have a flavor attribute that comes from the actual distillery itself in terms of the stills and how they're run. And that's kind of what you call like a house flavor or house style. It'd be very recognizable in a lot of different distilleries around the world, what they are. For King Car Distillery or Kavalan Distillery, they're known to be very fruity, really, really oily, and then kind of complex. And that's kind of their house style in general. It was probably shot to fame as a distillery in around 2015. Jim Murray, who is either your favorite or least favorite whiskey author, in his whiskey Bible, when it was definitely the most fiercely held review book in the world, in 2015, he named Kavalan's Soloist Single Malt the best single malt in the world, and that exploded Kavalan everywhere in the world. And I was actually speaking to John O'Donovan, who owns Irish Malt, before the show, and I was actually musing how delighted I was that Irish Malt now sells Kavalan, because usually when things are this exciting, this different around the world, they usually show up in the likes of Germany and France and the UK. Don't always make it to Ireland. So I'm really excited to see it in Ireland. Anyway, to everyone who's already in the comment section, trying it in the comment section, I'm already seeing people saying that they find it interesting, a huge amount of flavor, lovely dram, lots of flavor. I like Marissa saying she finds an almond nutty finish. Well, I'm going to stick my nose into this one, and I'm going to see what I'm going to find. In I really enjoy this. It is a different experience in a brandy snifter. I think this is probably the first time I've done an actual tasting in a brandy snifter. So enjoy the world's firsts. There's a lot of that sweetness in the background. I'm definitely getting that nut, and also a lot of that kind of like toasted wood you're going to get from those refills. Huge amount of tropical fruits on the nose, but it's really, really oily and mouth coating on the palate, and I can see why they claim that that's the house style. It's almost it's almost like a not in terms of flavor, but a consistent like a coconut oil or something, like covering your tongue. I can still feel it after the fact. 40% ABV, but huge amount of flavor. From Kavalan themselves, they say fragrant and tropical fruits, vanilla and mango. I can see a lot of that, those tropical fruits coming through. Spicy barley and gentle oak on the palate, creamy richness. I go further than creamy richness. It's very, very oily and mouth coating on the palate, which is very interesting. We talk about that a lot with pot still, but in a very different essence. This is very much just kind of like a heavy spirit in terms of the mouth coatingness, rather than kind of a spice where you get from the pot still. Touch of allspice and pear skin on the finish. I see that. I would lean further towards Marissa's kind of almost almonds or that kind of dried nut on the background, but very much something I'm enjoying. It's a huge amount of flavor in this, and absolutely leaping out of the glass, which I'm loving. As I said, only 40% ABV, which I never would have guessed tasting this blind. It is now available on Irish Malts. It is, I believe, €95. Of course, Irish Malts can ship anywhere direct to your door, where it is legal to do so. Looking at you, like 11 United States. So if this is something you're enjoying and you are not a member of 3 Drams, check it out on Irish Malts right now. You can check it out. You can get it straight to your door. To those in Germany, I know you're going to ask. I have no idea if it's on sale in Germany, but I work in Ireland. So as a Taiwanese whiskey, I do not have that information for you. But of course, you can order from Irish Malts and they'll get it direct to your door. And if you are a subscriber, one of the many subscribers to 3 Drams, at 5 to 9, you will get an email into your inbox with discount codes to purchase each of these whiskeys individually we're trying tonight, and then all 3 in a bundle, which will give you lots of savings. And again, once just delivered straight to your door. So I think I've given enough time to Kavalan now. I'm going to go back for one little more nose. It's absolutely delicious. It's actually a huge, as I've let that air, a huge amount of raw honey on the nose. That was amazing. Actually, I've never had that much honey in a glass before. But I am delighted to welcome our first live guest of the evening, Miss Anya Fanning, who is brand ambassador from the Shed Distillery, to talk about a very exciting whiskey, because I love the whiskeys that are coming out of the Shed. We're going to talk about Drumshanbo's Galánta, the single malt released in 2021. Anya, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Anya Fanning. I am a brand ambassador from the Shed Distillery.
Yeah. Oh, well, Anya, as I said, we are delighted to have you. As I said, our first live guest of the evening. So you're already leaps and bounds ahead of Kavalan. So you're going to have a great time. But no, we're going to talk about the Galánta, 46% ABV for everyone who is drinking along at home. That's Dram River Agá, River Ado here. So I love Roisin saying great start to the evening. Big Kavalan fan, delighted. So I'm going to take my brandy snifter and I'm going to fill up a little bit here. Anya, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're going to have in the glass this evening, and we can try a little bit in a moment or two.
So we are tasting the Drumshanbo single malt Irish whiskey Galánta release, the 2021 release. So that was the first batch that we did single malt with here at the Shed Distillery. Before we get stuck into it, I have a taste if you would like. I will talk you through a tasting in a moment as well, but I would like to just talk maybe a bit about the history of the distillery, our founder PJ Rigney, the creator of the brands, and I might talk a bit about the bottle and the packaging as well. Obviously we will do a tasting too, but just a bit about the history. So the Shed Distillery was set up in 2014 by the founder PJ Rigney. So it is completely a family run business. PJ has over 40 years experience in the drinks industry. He has owned the likes of Baru Vodka, Sheridan's Irish Cream, and he did a lot of travel around the world with Bailey's. And as he was traveling, he was always thinking of his own ideas for brands and his own distillery. He is a Dublin man himself, but he did fall in love with the area Drumshanbo in County Leitrim in the west of Ireland. It's about 2 hours from Dublin. So he used to come here as a child on holidays. His parents actually met here, but it is a beautiful rural area in the heartlands of Leitrim. And it was here that he decided to set up his distillery in 2014. Why here, people would ask. It is beautiful, obviously, but he wanted to give back a lot of employment to the area. So our site is actually situated on an old jam factory. Laird's Jam used to produce Little Bo Peep jam, but that closed down in the early 90s. So the shed was actually set up on this plot, and we started off with one employee, Brian Taft, is our head distiller, and now PJ employs over 110 people from the local area, which is amazing. So we would call ourselves a multifunctional distillery, but we are the home of Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin. So we would say we're a gin distillery that make exclusive, very premium, exceptional whiskies. So I know a lot of distilleries say they're whiskey distilleries that make gin, but we would say the other way around. But PJ always wanted to create traditional Irish, authentic whiskies. We produced our first release in 2014. The distillation was of a single pot still Irish whiskey. That is our flagship. But this one that you're tasting tonight is our Drumshanbo single malt Irish whiskey. So the Galánta release. So you can see behind me the packaging there. It's in a beautiful premium black looking box. Galánta, you're probably wondering what that is. So Galánta is the Irish for courage and bravery, nobility even. So this just symbolizes the courage that PJ had to set up the distillery in the West, very rural, and just the courage to produce. We're actually the first single malt whiskey produced in the west of Ireland in over 107 years. So the last distillery that closed down in the west of Ireland in 1913. So that was off the coast of Nuns Island in Galway. So we made history when we started distilling. But yeah, just onto this whiskey, of course. So it's a limited annual whiskey. So every precious drop has been triple distilled at the Shed Distillery by head distiller Brian Taft. It's distilled using malted Irish barley. This lends an elegant, full-bodied taste to this whiskey. It's aged in single-use Kentucky bourbon casks for a minimum of 7 years. So we get our casks from the Jim Beam Company in America. They have a level 3 char on the inside. These are hand selected by Brian Taft. So we use the best of the barrels that we get over for this release. And these barrels give an intriguing balance of vanilla and some wood spice to the whiskey. So this whiskey you're tasting is extremely rare. It's a limited edition. It's an annual release, individually numbered and labeled at the shed. So it showcases the quality of whiskies we produce here at the shed, and the quality of whiskey that Brian Taft and PJ Rigney can produce. So just kind of a few on the numbers side of things. As I said, it's 7 years minimally aged. The barrel strength is 63 to 67%, and we cut that to 46% in the bottle. So our flagship whiskey, the single pot that we produce all year round, that is at a 43%. So we chose 46 for this whiskey because this is for the whiskey connoisseur. The single pot is very welcoming and inviting to all consumers. It's a very sweet whiskey, whereas this has a bit more depth and layers to it for that whiskey lover. So we use water from our local source, Loch Allen, which is the local lake in Drumshanbo. It's a filtered water. And yeah, so that's the bit of background about it all. I'd love to guide you through a tasting if that's okay now, Matt, or would you like any other pointers?
No, sure, go for it. Your show on it. Far away.
Yeah. Very good. So we'll look at the appearance. I suppose if you want to look at the appearance of the whiskey in the glass. So it's non-chill filtered whiskey, and it has a deep amber golden color to it. So getting all that lovely color from that single use Kentucky bourbon cask. Yeah, very clear, as Mike is saying there. And then if you want to raise it to your nose, we have some, initially you'll get like golden caramels. And I would say like wood filled and notes of nut. And I've often heard people say roasted coffee. It comes up in it too. Can you get any of that, Matt?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of all butterscotch and almost like biscuit
from the bourbon.
Almost like Biscoff biscuits or something in the background.
Oh,
it's very
lovely. Yes.
Very rich. It's lovely. Yeah.
Great, yeah. And then if you want to take an initial taste, leave a drop melt into your palate. You'd get sláinte, yes, cheers. You would get caramels, vanillas, definitely from that Kentucky bourbon cask, and stoned fruits maybe. Roasted apple is definitely what I would get when I'm tasting it. Mm-hmm. And the finish is nice and smooth. There's no harshness or astringency. You can nearly get the pot spice dancing around, and just it is a sweet whiskey, dessert like nearly. Yeah. So
I like that the malt the malt characteristic comes through on the palate as well. Yeah. It's very it's lively. It's spry in its palate, which is nice.
Lovely, yeah.
So Roisin's saying she's tasting almonds. Gordon is saying he's getting a mouthful of toffee apple.
Toffee apple, yeah.
So and Mike D says he's bought this whiskey multiple times. So
lovely,
clearly doing something right with Mike anyway.
Yeah. So this is the 2021 release. 14,000. 14,000 bottles released a batch, and we stopped producing any other whiskey during those 2 to 3 weeks we're producing this, and we have now had a 22 release and a 23 release as well. So yeah, you can get it on Irish Malt and also the Shed Distillery website as well. You can purchase the single malts that you want to release.
This is your limited. Not only is this limited edition, it's one of the older limited editions. So
absolutely, it's very rare. Yeah.
And per year, like between the 21, 22, 23, is there a discernible difference? Like, is it a cask difference between them, or an ABV difference, or is it just the latest iteration of the whiskey?
No, yeah, we still, the Kentucky, see, for our single pot, our flagship whiskey, we use Kentucky bourbon also, but with sherry oloroso. But the Galánta releases get the first preference of those Kentucky bourbon casks. So our head distiller Brian Taft is picking those beautiful casks by hand and making sure for this release that we have the best of the best that we get in from the Jim Beam company. So no, it's always cut to 46. And yeah, there's obviously going to be little differences just between cask, between water year on year, but no, very much a consistent release. Yeah.
Fantastic. Recommend retail price is about 120, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah, 120. Yeah, average.
Fantastic. And for our friends in Germany, I know Irish malts can drop directly to your door. But if people are looking for more information from you on your website, I presume they can find out more on the Shed Distillery's website as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that is what.
Wonderful.
That is what we say. Yes, the website. Yeah.
Listen, it's great. So tell us a quick little bit about being a gin company that makes whiskey, because you said it's usually the other way around. And funnily enough,
yeah.
Go on. Yeah.
Yeah, so PJ Rigney, he actually was over in Zhejiang, China. He was still working for Bailey's at the time, and he tasted gunpowder green tea over there. And it was like he got struck by lightning. It was like that was the initiator. He said, do you know what? I'm going to put this green tea as a botanical into a gin, and I'm going to stop working for other people and go for it and set up his distillery in Ireland and go for his brands. So it was actually the gin that was like his first love. But he did, obviously, having a distillery in Ireland and being Irish, he wanted to produce his own Irish whiskey. We have released amazing expressions of gin that are going all over the world. We're in over 85 countries now with the gin. So there's we're always innovating. We are always new things coming. So watch this space. But obviously the whiskey, we're hand slow distilling at the Shed. We put a lot of there's a lot of time that goes into the whiskey, obviously, and we kept it quite smaller batches with the whiskey and very niche and premium. So that we are expanding though with the whiskey. We've seen the demand, and we're putting in three new whiskey stills next year as well. So we are expanding, which is great news. But the whiskey's catching up now to the gin, so it's exciting.
Phenomenal. I'm delighted to hear that the expansion is going in with new stills. And they're going to be in the same space, or is it going to be an expansion of the visitor center into more of the jam factory?
Yeah, the three new stills are going onto the same site. Yeah. There's a bit of moving around. We're on a social enterprise site. There's a lot of other great businesses around us. But PJ has acquired a new bit of space on the plot of land. So no, it's still all on the same site. But yeah, the local community have rallied around. They're supporting PJ as much as possible. Yeah, so it's there. We have a visitor experience there. We do tours into the distillery. We have an amazing botanical greenhouse bar. We have a beautiful cafe there as well, all in Drumshanbo, County Leitrim in Ireland. So it was like PJ set it up there to increase employment in the area, but now it has nearly turned into like a tourist attraction, and we are getting people from all over the world traveling to see the Shed. So it's amazing for that. It's had a spin-off effect there with employment for other businesses too. So it's amazing. Yeah, it's really good.
Fantastic. Roisin in the comments is asking how much it is. It's €120 retail on Irish malts. And Marissa's asking, do you host tours in the distillery, or is it self-guided, or are they guided tours in the distillery?
No, so we have a visitor experience. So we're open 7 days a week with the visitor experience all year round. We do hourly tours, and it is guided by a brand ambassador. So we have brand ambassadors on site that will bring you around. You get a bit of history about Drumshanbo. You do the whole whiskey experience, learn about our traditional Irish whiskey making. You get to step foot onto the distillery floor and do a whiskey tasting with us. And then you get a gin and vodka experience as well. And you end up back in the Honey Badger bar, we call it, and you get a complimentary drink. So it is, if anyone is in Ireland and they can get over to our corner of the world, it is an amazing experience to do. Yes.
Phenomenal. And is it true that you can pull your boat up in the locks and hop out for a bit of Drumshanbo or a tour?
So yeah, you can. Yeah, so you can pull up your boat into Drumshanbo village. Yeah, not directly up to the distillery. That is a cool idea, though. We don't have, the river doesn't flow like alongside the distillery. We're up on a bit of a hill. But yeah, you can pull into Drumshanbo. You can pull into Leitrim village is next, and there's Carrick-on-Shannon as well. So yeah, there's beautiful boats you can rent. Yeah, it's a gorgeous area to holiday. In the summer is amazing if you can just miss the rain. But we're still like, I'm over in the distillery tomorrow. We're very busy with tours even into the winter now. So it's great. And we do gorgeous Christmas decorations. And at the moment we're doing lovely Halloween cocktails this weekend. So yeah, it's a great place to visit. Yeah.
Mike D says he's not a gin fan, but horse courses. Mike, we're talking about whiskey. Come head off to lovely Leitrim for a bit of whiskey. Don't mind the gin business. Only the number one gin.
We have something for everybody from the shed. There is something for everyone there. Yeah.
And I do say, like, I don't think people realize quite how much gunpowder is sold throughout the world. Like, you think that, you know, Irish distillers have a ton of gin and vodka brands or whatever, and gunpowder is outselling them 10, 15, 20 fold around the world. So it is there's I've been traveling for the last 10 years selling whiskey, and there's not anywhere I can go. I've found it in bars in Singapore. I found it in bars. I found a boatload of it in Russia before the war. I'd go to, you know, rural Pennsylvania and I'd find it in a local bar. It is absolutely everywhere. So Anya, thank you so much for taking us through the whiskey. Had a wonderful time. And of course, if you guys are 3 Drams subscribers, you'll get a discount code in about 15 minutes directly into your inbox. Otherwise, you can check out the Shed Distillery to find out more information about this lovely whiskey. So thank you so much, Anya. I've really appreciated it.
Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you everyone for joining in. It was brilliant.
Phenomenal.
Bye.
Well, we have had this evening, we have started off in Taiwan. We've gone to lovely Leitrim, and now we're going to go not too far from Leitrim all the way to Carlow with a stop off first in the land of the rising sun. And I am delighted to be welcoming Don Campion, who is just a brand development wizard of the world of whiskey. So I'm delighted to be welcoming him to the show. Don, how are you doing? Lovely to have you. Now,
I'm good, Matt. Thanks very much.
Oh, good.
I thought you were going to say sunny southeast, but unfortunately it's not sunny evening. So, yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you there now. Yeah, a bit of a delay on my end, I think, but we're all good now. Why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown of Dram number 3 here, Ivertree, because this is a fine whiskey that I'm very excited to be tucking into this evening.
Well, I suppose, Matt, to start off, the Mizunara cask itself is very unique. It can be very complex. You know, we started, I suppose, from Walt's Whiskey. Our collaboration started, our expression started back in 2019 with collaboration with the Japanese World Cup. We just brought it out. You know, there's not a lot of Irish distilleries that will bring out a Mizunara cask because, first of all, it can be very complex. It can be very expensive. But 2019 was our first release of our expression. Obviously, we're on our 4th now at this stage, but it's a very limited edition, Matt. We release about 600 bottles per year, and once it's gone until next year. I suppose, look, if I start, Matt, with the history of the Mizunara and obviously get into maybe some tasting of it. So the Mizunara wood itself, known as Japanese water oak, it's a very unique maceration wood to use in whiskey. Obviously, generally it'd be American bourbon or French or Spanish casks, but the Mizunara oak itself, obviously it's scarcer than the European and the American oaks, and a lot more expensive as well, Matt. You know that. its story is deeply rooted in obviously Japanese history. I suppose where Mizunara came from in itself, Matt, is the story about it. There's a very select few agents in Japan that can actually harvest the wood itself. So it takes 200 years for the tree to be harvested. And once the tree is actually harvested by the select few that are chosen to actually cut it down, it needs about 3 years to actually dry out before it actually can be used for any cast. So it's a very long process. It's obviously got 203 years in the making. So it's a very complex, as I said, the way it grows, Matt, and to your audience, thanks very much for having me here as well, I forgot to mention, but it's, it's a very windy growth of a tree. So there's not many distilleries that actually try use the Mizunara because, as I said, it takes a long time to mature. It takes a long time to harvest. But we decided in 2019 from Waltz Whiskey is to do a collaboration with the Mizunara cask. I suppose where it comes from is, it takes a lot of whiskies, it takes years for it to mature. So the Mizunara itself has unique, complex, properties that need to just be used in collaboration with whiskies. But definitely from a Waltz Whiskey perspective, it's been a huge success for us, Matt. As I said, we just brought it out for the World Cup, but since then, we've brought it out every year. It's released basically, it's like Anya's, it's a natural non-chilled filtered, and it's bottled at cask strength. This rare Oriental single cask, again, showcases the stunning influence of Japanese Mizunara. And with the liquid itself, Matt, prior to being matured in the Mizunara, obviously it spent time in American bourbon casks. So the liquid that it's in, it's a minimum of about 5 to 6 years in bourbon, and it's matured then for about 9 months in a Japanese cask. We got our hands on probably about 10 casks. We use it twice. So basically we're getting a lot of flavor from it. And to explain how the Mizunara is very unique, for me, Waltz Whiskey, we've got about 15 or 16 different expressions, but for me, it's very unique. It's a wood that we'd love to do more of, because it's very, hard to get your hands on. It's
ridiculously hard to get your hands on.
Yeah, well, look, when it costs about 3,000 or 4,000 for an empty cask, it's very hard to get your hands on. So yeah, easily. Well, we know it's gone up to 6,000 for an empty cask at the moment. So, I suppose Bernard has a long relationship with our suppliers in Japan. So it's continued for the last 4 years. So we're able to source that. So obviously going forward, we're looking forward to next year's release. But as we said, it's not part of our core range, but it is one of our expressions that we release on an annual basis. So this year we've released 600 bottles. We've released it to various markets, Ireland, France, Germany, Italy, to name a few. So obviously we couldn't go across all the markets that Waltz Whiskey export to. At the moment, we export to 57 markets. So, it's a select few that we actually send the Mizunara to. So it's very unique, aging in a whiskey, and it's, for me, it is very unique. I haven't tasted any other whiskey. Obviously, Glendalough have done a few. There's some Scotch whiskies out there that have used Mizunara, but it's a very unique. But thank God for Waltz Whiskey, we're able to source the casks, Matt. So looking forward to next year, and hopefully that long supply contract is still in place. So it's that's a slight story of Mizunara, and it's very interesting. I suppose if we just go to the nose anyway, Matt, straight away you're getting that pot still. So for us, that liquid before it went into the Mizunara cask would have 60% pot still and would have 40% single malt. So predominantly you'll get that spice from the pot still. And again, you're getting apple, for me anyway, for pear. But again, that distinct pot still base is there.
Yeah.
You can get, again, we have 60%. Again, you're getting it on the nose. So it's very prominent from the pot still. But I think what the pot still does, Matt, for the Mizunara, the Mizunara, I think, just chills out the pot still. You know, it just chills it out a small bit. It's great to have that single malt influence, that 40% single malt. But definitely on the taste, what are we expecting? It's in bourbon cask for 5 to 6 years, so obviously we're going to get vanilla, you know, predominantly. And again, the Mizunara will always give sandalwood. You can see from the color as well, Matt. My color's probably not as good as yours, but I can see from yours, you can see that amber. It's a very dark kind of amber honey color. And again,
I'm going to take a little sip. I'm going to say sláinte and take a little sip.
Yeah, sláinte, guys. And I always say, Matt, I'm sure you'd say the same, is when you taste a whiskey at 55%, what you're expecting out of that is not that, you know, that sharp burn. You know, at 55%, that is very, very mellow. I always say about a strong whiskey, a cask strength whiskey, you know, you shouldn't get that burn. So you can see what Bernard Walsh has done is he's found that balance, you know, is to produce a whiskey, and it's the same with our cask strengths on the Irishman or the Writer's Tears, is releasing that cask strength. You know, there should be a very good balance that you're not getting that burn. You know, you shouldn't be tasting that to 55%.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I probably should have started with, like, when you look at the legs on the whiskey, you know, you can see a perfect circle. You know, and again, for me as well, for me, Matt, I know we all have our own thing, but for on the nose, I always try smell with the two nostrils. You know, one should be more dominant than the other. So you should get alcohol on one, and you should get the taste profile on the other.
Yeah.
You know, it works for some, but you can definitely get the alcohol in one nostril. It's very distinctive. You know, very distinctive. You can certainly get alcohol in one nostril.
It's very, very expressive and very flavorful. I'm loving there's a lovely both pot still, but also wood crackle on the tongue, which is very nice, very enjoyable. But again, one of those things that Mizunara brings, that sandalwood, is just fantastic. And it's funny because it's such an odd thing to like people aren't going around licking sandalwood, but it's one of those things. It tastes like the smell of like shaven sandalwood, or even in kind of like used in whatever incense holders or whatever it might be. It's very, very expressive. Makes for fine.
Mizunara, you know, you get a taste profile when you're dealing with bourbon casks. It's always a common denominator regarding what whiskey that's aged in bourbon. But I feel that Japanese finish is very unique. Like we do a finish with an ice wine, the Enniskillen ice wine finish that we do as well. You know, but for the Mizunara, it's just very unique. You know, it's out of all of our expressions, that's my favorite. You know, I know Alan has mentioned the Enniskillen there as well. So it's you know, we were coming out with a lot, I suppose. Going back to what we're producing at the moment, Matt, we have a lot going on regarding expressions. We do have a tequila finish coming out soon. It's going to be on the latter end of Christmas. But we do have a lot of, I suppose, from Walt's Whiskey's perspective, we do have a core range from our Irishman and a Writer's Tears. And then what we release during the year is very unique expressions, which obviously the Mizunara is included on that. The Enniskillen, the ice wine, the tequila finish is coming out, which is going to be our first expression. So obviously we're expecting that to be an annual thing going forward. So I suppose from Waltz's perspective, Matt, is we're very all about innovation. We do have a core range. We have a lot of a Writer's Tears or Redhead or Double Oak or Harvest on the Irishman end of things, or Caribbean finish. You know, obviously we have a 17-year-old. We have 22-year-old out at the moment in the airport. And, you know, it's going to be available. Just to let you know, the Mizunara is available through Irish Malts as well and I checked it out earlier. So it's actually cheaper than a lot of outlets. It's €85 through Irish Malts. It's 90 to 100 through other outlets. So look, it's if you want to get your hands on Mizunara, go to Irish Malts.
Absolutely. And of course, if you are a subscriber to 3 Drams, you will have that discount in your inbox in about 9 minutes. So it'll be knocked down even more.
Even cheaper, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Lower price point. I love it. And Don, tell us.
It's great value at 55%.
Absolutely. I was going to say, obviously, there's been a lot of news recently around Walsh Whiskey and Irishman. I don't want to put you on the spot because we didn't talk about it before the show, but is there anything you can share about any new news?
I know you too well now to know that this question was going to come up. So look, I was well prepared. Look, it came out last week. It's been news for us in Walsh Whiskey, I suppose, the last couple of months. Obviously, we've been taken over by ABG Group, but obviously from the outset, they had big plans for what we have. So what's initially, Matt, I suppose what's great about the Irishman and Writer's Tears is the brand has found a home. You know, we've gone through a lot over the last couple of years. Bernard, you know, on Rosemary, I suppose we're in the whiskey business since 1999 with Irishman coffee liqueurs. So we seem to have found our space. We found our home. So it's an exciting time. It's a huge investment. We're talking about 35 million. So and for a distillery to produce 4 million LPAs is a big distillery.
That's a big distillery.
It is a big distillery. You know, so it's exciting times, but as I said, it's a home for the brands. As I said, we're in the whiskey business globally for the last 20 years, so it's exciting times. We've a lot going on. I suppose over the next coming months, there's going to be a lot of planning regarding design and architecture and stuff like that. But we're hoping to start construction, I suppose, Matt, for 2024. If we look at 18 months for construction, we're hoping to lay down liquids, obviously in 2025. And obviously the 3-year gap of laying down your first distillation. So it's definitely, you know, it's exciting times. It's great for Carlo. It's great for anyone, but obviously it's fantastic news for Walsh Whiskey, and obviously ABG have distribution in over 300 countries, so it's exciting times. You know, it's trying to keep up with the want for Walsh Whiskey, I suppose, Matt, is the next challenge as to what we have. But definitely, look, it's exciting times. It's great to be part of it. But you know, I think for Irish Whiskey, Matt, and you know as well as I do, you know, onwards and upwards. You know, it's great for everyone. Absolutely.
That's I think just absolutely fantastic to see. I said at the very beginning when I was talking about Kavalan, and now you're staring down the barrel of the gun of a new development in terms of construction. Obviously, you're not running the construction end of it, but to hear that Kavalan was built in 9 months from plan to operational. Could you imagine anything in Ireland of scale being done in 9 months?
I'm not going to comment on who's going to get the construction job, Matt, but you know Irish construction now. It's not going to be 9 months unless we get the Taiwanese guys over to do the job in Carlo.
Apparently who we need, because I can't believe someone built a distillery in 9 months, but and a big one at that, not a tiddlywinks one either, you know.
Matt, we need 9 months to fill a pothole, let alone the distillery.
Exactly. Well, Don, thank you so much. If people wanted to find out more information about Writer's Tears or Irishman, is there a website you can send them to?
Yeah, look, you can go on walshwhiskey.com. I'm in Germany. It's actually a coincidence, Matt, tonight the Irish Whiskey Awards was actually due in Middleton tonight. But it was cancelled. But I'm in Germany next month for Frankfurt for Inter Whiskey. Yeah, I'll be there in Frankfurt for anyone in Germany that's here at the moment. The Japanese cast was available and is available next month. And last month I did Herb Whiskey in Berlin. So look, we're all over Germany. Anyone's got any questions going forward for the evening, just give me a call or get in touch with Matt, or I'm going to be here for the evening. So touch base.
as you said, the price on Irish malts is about $84.95, I think, from memory.
Yeah, $84.95 to Irish malts. I've checked everyone else. They're more expensive, Matt. Not that much. But look, it's great to get Irish malts on board. That's before the discount. So look, if anyone wants it, get onto Irish malts after the discount and enjoy your Japanese Mizunara cask.
Well, a very big thank you. In 3 minutes, you're going to get that email to your inbox if you are a 3 Drams subscriber. And if you're not, and you're here, or if you're not in general, what are you doing? It's coming up to Christmas time. You can go on to 3 Drams and you can gift a fantastic 3 Drams subscription to whoever is the whiskey lover or the fledgling whiskey lover in your life. Because I think Don and myself will do a great job talking to the seasoned and the novice whiskey lovers alike. To Don, yourself, of course, to our friends in Kavalan and, of course, Anya in Drumshanbo, and to everyone watching at home, a very big thank you to you all. To the guys in 3 Drams and Irish Malt to do all of the work in the background. As always, I say, I just show up and get to talk about fantastic whiskies. It's the guys in the background that do stellar work. As I said, they're planning 5 months out ahead. Most people aren't even thinking about Christmas yet, and they're thinking about February. So it's great to see the planning that goes in. We've got some really exciting whiskies coming up, and I'm delighted to be able to bring in some of these international whiskies as well. As I said, we started in Taiwan, went to lovely Leitrim, and then we went back to Carlo via Japan. So a very big thank you to you all. I hope you had a great night. And Don, to you, thank you very much. I hope you had a great evening.
Yeah, thanks very much, Matt, and thanks very much to 3 Drams. And if anyone's got any queries, contact me at dcampion@waltzwhiskey.com.
Phenomenal. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Matt.